Hello and welcome again to River Valley Farm. We're going to do the 484 thing again today, but we're going to make some improvements rather than just repairs. First thing we're going to do is we're going to fix the hood here so that the battery cover, wherever it went, over here, will actually bolt on. I'm going to try and just put a tap through the holes, and hopefully they'll clean out and the bolts will go in there like they're supposed to. Where's your hat?
Out there. Wade needs my binoculars.
Huh?
Wade needs my binoculars.
Okay then. So yeah, we're gonna do that. And if that doesn't work, then we're just gonna cut those nuts out and put tack weld some regular nuts on there so we can have them. And this thing has had a malfunction, shall we say, in the wiring. I don't know if you can see or not, but this is all melted, like it got really hot and like almost caught on fire. Like this wire right here. That's not insulation, that is in fact corrosion that has been on this, that's collected on this bare wire. So we're gonna eliminate the factory harness as much as possible and make our own. Not gonna be a big deal to do so, but that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna come right down here to the starter and just rip everything off of it. Everything that we can, I should say, we're gonna rip it off of it and we're gonna go with it. We don't need, well, I would really like to have the clutch safety switch, but it's stuck, so I would have to order a new one, and that would be simple enough to wire in anyway, so we'll just leave some extra wire here so that we can attach into one of these days when I get one, kind of like one of these days when I get this cable, and one of these days when I get a tack cable. We'll fix all that too, but for right now, we're just gonna go with making a reliable wiring system so we can have lights and not have to worry about it burning down, hopefully. And anyway, I've got lights in the toolbox on the truck. We'll get to that when we get to that. For right now, like I said, I'm gonna start with running a tap through those holes and seeing what we can do with that. Hopefully that'll be the cause, that'll be a fix for that, and then we can just put the thing back together. Of course, it's typical of my fashion, my highly organized fashion abilities and stuff here. It's scattered everywhere. Stuff is, that matter. So I don't even know what that is. That's got to be what I'm looking for, though. That's got to be a 5/16 by whatever coarse thread 5/16 is. So take that and our tap handle. And this is a really nice tap set that is older than probably everybody watching this video. But anyway, this is what we're going to do right now. So hang on a minute, I'll see what happens. Okay, so bolts threaded nice and neat now. That's good. So that means that this will fit anyway. And this is probably the more difficult way you could ever put this thing on, but anyway, this is how it goes. Like so. The crappy paint job that came with this thing is crappy, so don't worry too much about that. That one's going, but it's not real happy about it. But anyway, at least the battery cover will stay on now, so that's a plus. And put the bolts in, tighten them up, and it'll stay on where I put it anyway. Definitely a good thing. Next time I take it back through the woods, I won't have to worry about leaves and stuff falling down through the through this big open hole here and getting all over the battery. And then the battery, or actually when that harness started to burn up, I was back in the woods. It was fall, dry leaves falling down through that hole. And yeah, anyway, it was not a good day, or at least it started not to be a good day. But it didn't burn down completely, so I guess we're good. On to the next thing, which, you know, I'll probably work these little dents over a little bit. There's a few on here. I've got, well, like for instance, this body hammer, and then there's a few others laying around here someplace that I gotta find yet. But yeah, in time. All things in good time, right? So for now, let's see, we're going to go and strip the wiring off of this thing. I've already started on this process, like the stuff that went across that way, the old temperature gauge wire. There was a wire that went to air filter restriction, which was this guy right here. I forget now what I did with, I don't know, there was a little hose or something that went to this at one time here. We did away with that. I plugged that hole in the intake pipe here so we don't have to worry about dusting it. This is where your ether injection went at one time. Did away with that. Don't like that stuff. So on and so forth. Looks like I got a little leak right here somewhere on this thing, whether it be this clamp or that. Probably that clamp, since it appears to be broke. That's okay, I have more of those. And then, anyway, like I said, we're just gonna strip all of the wiring. Anything smaller than a battery cable is coming off, and we are going to start over. We're gonna put a fused wire to the ignition switch, and then we're going to put in a fused wire to excite the starter, and a fused wire to operate the lights that we're going to install, and a fused wire from the lights from each light switch, because I'm going to have a light on the back and a light on the front, or lights on the front, two on the front, one on the back. So we're going to have anyway, must have been a long night or something. So I'm going to have a fused wire coming off of the light switch for each lights. One for the, or one fused line going to the front, one going to the back. And that's going to be it. Okay, we're going to wire in the starter here, but I have bigger, nicer wire to do that, or not the starter, the alternator, excuse me. But I have bigger, heavier gauge wire that I'm going to do that with, and we are going to eliminate this altogether. We're just going to go from here to here, you know, go that way, around and over, down. Basically, we're not going to run it all fancy and stuff, although I may actually run a fused wire from the ignition to that as well, but we'll see how that goes. I don't think I'm going to get all that fancy that way. Yeah, probably not going to get all that fancy, but we are going to put some fuses in it, and we are going to run a whole bunch of new wiring and do away with a lot of stuff, as I said. The only thing I am going to do is I'm going to leave enough wire here so that one of these days when I get a new neutral or clutch safety switch, I can wire it in. All I got to do is go snip, strip, put 2 spades on it, put it on a new switch. And then that will interrupt current to the excite wire on the starter, as long as the clutch is not pushed in, which would be a good thing as well. Yes?
We're going on a nature walk.
Going on a nature walk?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To where?
We're going to walk across the area.
Across the area? As in where across the area?
From here all the way down to Grandma Ruth's house.
Well, Grandma Ruth's not home, remember?
Yeah, but then we're going
Then you turn around and come back? All right, stay on the driveway, I guess.
But
Okay?
we need something to carry all our stuff in.
Well, I don't have any bags you can have.
Any sacks?
Huh?
Any sacks?
I don't have any bags you can have, so you'll just have to go with what you got, basically. You won't need to take your little tablet thing. I guess I should stop filming now so I can reason with these two for a minute. Okay, so we have removed
Are you done starter?
that and that.
Are you done starter?
Gonna start? No, not yet, bud. And that, and that. So we took out all that stuff. Okay. Now, what I'm doing right now is I'm running new wires to my alternator. I'm gonna run 2 of these 10 gauge wires up here to the alternator. I don't have any like 4 gauge wire. I have ends for 4 gauge wire, but I don't have any 4 gauge wire for some reason. So that's what we're gonna do with that. The double up on the 12 or 10 gauge, I think that is actually, it'll work. It'll be all right. Because again, the alternator is there to recharge the battery after the tractor starts and then to keep up with the lights, but we are putting on LED lights. So basically next to no amperage draw. I saw somebody make a video a while back talking about, I can't even remember who it was, but somebody on YouTube make a video talking about how much, how, you know, you had to have all this fancy stuff to run LED lights because of the high amperage draw. I don't know how bright these are. These are 18 watt 2x3 spotlights. Okay. 2-pack. And I don't know how much. Yeah, I'm old school. I really don't understand lumens anyway, but you know, and then I've got this thing here, which is just a big floodlight that I was going to put on the back of the tractor. These are going to go out on the front someplace. Anyway, lights, LED lights with 9 LEDs, and I know this to be a fact, 9 LEDs draw half of 1 amp of current, okay? So these are not even, these here, these two are not even going to draw half of an amp, and this one I'm not sure, but you know, half to 3/4 of 1 amp basically. So you know, I'm going to run my lights on a 5 amp fuse just for argument's sake. That way it won't take much of a short at all to pop those. But anyway, so we've got it all this. I've made up these 2 wires. I'm going to put them on the alternator, and then we're going to work our way from there. We're going to take 1 wire from this lug on the starter to the battery position on the ignition switch. Like I said, we're going to run it through a fuse. I got to call the local parts store and see if they've got like a 4 fuse little fuse block or something. If not, then we're going to have to get really ingenuitive and see what we can do. So bear with me. All right, so we've got our wires connected to the starter for the alternator. I took this little loop thing was already here, and I took piece of fuel line, split it and wrapped over my wires and put them in there, zip tied it in place obviously, so we don't have to worry about that. I need to put a couple more ties on there. No big deal. This is the fuse block that the local parts store had. It'll do. Not going to complain about it at all. It will function and do as it needs to do. I'm probably, yeah, I'd say probably about right here would be a good place for that. Somewhere right in there. Drill a couple holes, put a couple 1/4-inch bolts through that, mount it right there, and then we can bring a wire up from here up to here, and then run it over there. We'll put our, it's not going to work quite as well as I had hoped it would, because I don't think you can do individual circuits on it, but hey, we'll figure something out, I guess. That's not, yeah, I was hoping just for a little strip with fuses in it, so you could have a fuse, wire, so you could isolate, but that's not what I got. So we'll figure something out. Worst comes to worst, we can rig something up and put it in this general vicinity. Actually, that may be what I end up doing anyway. I will just put the main ignition power on this and call that good. I didn't think this through very well, but we'll make it work. All right, so just a quick recap. Got my wire from the starter to the ignition switch is put in. This is how I rigged up my fuse in that lead. All right, that's going to be my fuse for the whole tractor, basically. That's going to work the starter. All of it's going to go through that. Then we're going to tie in over here for the lights. Okay, so I'm going to run a wire from the ignition switch, or well, I should say I tried anyway to run a wire from the ignition switch on the ignition on terminal on the ignition switch up to here to the existing light switch. Well, the existing light switch is no good. So flies, ointment, stuff like that, no big deal though. I was mildly prepared for this occurrence and brought this. Okay, nothing to write home about, just a real simple toggle on off switch. I was hoping to be able to wire this into I was hoping to be able to wire into that switch and then have one that's a multi-position switch. There's like 3, 4, or 5 different switch positions on there. There was hazard lights, road lights, field lights at least, if not one more. I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, not a huge deal with that either. We can work around it. So now we're going to replace this switch with this switch, and that should make us happy up to wiring in the lights, or putting on the lights and wiring them in, and also connecting to the starter from the ignition switch. No big deal there either. And like I said, I'm going to leave a loop in that wire so I'll have enough here to tie into this switch. So further developments. All right, so we're wired in. Alternator's wired to here. We jump from here, this post on our starter, which is just tied right to the main hot post right there. I ran a wire from here to the key switch on position up to the light switch, from the light switch to this fuse block where I will wire in front and rear lights. We'll have them on separate fuses. And then we ran a wire from the ignition switch, or actually we're still in process of doing that. All I got to do is go wire that in over there and heat shrink it and we'll be good. I've ran this wire here down to the excite wire on the starter, put a piece of fuel line over this so it can't rub on anything. Zip tied it up in here real good so it can't be ripped loose, hopefully. And I left enough slack in my excite wire for my starter solenoid that I should be able to tie into the neutral or clutch safety switch. Should I put one on, which I probably will, because I will one of these days have little kids driving this tractor, and I'd much as soon them have to push in the clutch before they try to start it, because if it was in gear it would start and run over somebody otherwise, right? So that's what we're doing. I'm expecting somebody to be coming to get a tire, but they aren't showing up yet. So anyway, we got to take this wire here and connect it to one of these 2 terminals here, like so. And then we should be able to see how good job we've done, or I have done, up to now. All right, so let's see how good a job we've done up to this point in time. I keep saying we, I mean me. I don't have any mice in my pocket, just a camera, right? So here goes something, I suppose. Hey, crank. It started. Looks like I might need to play with the timing just a bit more, but anyway. That's always an option.
so plus that, and it is, I don't know what temperature actually was this morning because it didn't look, but it's Saturday, May the 9th, and it was supposed to have got down to 28 degrees here last night, which is just ridiculous. But anyway, it says it's currently 53 degrees right now, but I think it probably should have done a little bit better than that, all things considered. Either that or I'm doing this all for naught because it has more fuel system problems. Either way. Okay, so number one injector is still a bit sticky. All right, the more it warms up, the better it is getting. We still do need a timing adjustment, but the number one injector is sticking when it's cold. So we're gonna have to figure that out one of these days, or maybe I'll just see if I can buy a complete assembly from somebody and send them that one back. That would probably be better. That's just it. The upper bodies on these injectors are pretty much shot, but I don't know where to get them, so we're just going to have to deal with what we got for right now. Either way, that's not what we're doing today. When it's warming up, it's getting better, so we're good with that. Next up, got to put the hood on. Actually, I'm going to put wire back to the rear where I'm going to mount the rear light. That's what I'm going to do right now, is run wire back over here to where I would like to mount the rear light, and then we'll go from there. All right, so here we are. Let's start this turd. Well, actually, let's put some of this stuff down here out of the way, I guess. Then we'll start this turd. Okay, so running, that's good. Lights on. Pretty bright if you ask me. Bright enough for what I'm gonna do with it anyway. And in this one back here, I haven't wired in yet because I need a switch connector for that. I didn't bring any, so gonna have to track one of them down, put that on there, and then we'll be done with lighting. And the only other thing I really need to check for my wiring is to make sure that it's charging, but I'm about, I don't know, 180% certain that that is the case. But just to make good and well sure, just to make good and well sure, $14.59. Good enough. Thanks for watching. I'll get back to you later.